What does that indicate that they think about you, or what they feel about you?
That they don't trust you enough, or they don't feel like they're like strong enough to tell you something.
Yeah. Like not inviting you to a party doesn't say anything at all about how close you necessarily are, or how much they, I guess it does, but how much they trust you, let's say. But when they turn to you, or don't turn to you, in those times of tragedy, that does indicate how they feel about you with regards to those things. I was thinking about that once, where like if a friend forgot to invite me to a party, I'd be sad. I'd be like, oh man, how'd you forget? But if you're inviting like 100 people, then it's easy to forget, or an invitation can get lost in the mail or whatever. But if one person, if they invite, if you're going through a tragedy and there's a list of 100 people, it obviously gets whittled way down. And I'd be very disappointed if I wasn't on that list. Like that list matters more to me than this list. I like being on this list, but that narrow list of people that you turn to when you need comfort, or when you're going through some kind of a tragedy or some kind of a difficulty, that tells you who's really close to you. Because you don't have to have like a particularly close relationship with a person to have fun with them. I'm sure that there are people who went to grad night last night and hung out with people who they don't normally hang out with. They're just kind of joined in the group or whatever, and they probably had fun or whatever. But when things go really bad, I wonder who they'll call on. I was thinking I was just recently talking to a friend of mine last week, and he was telling me that a month or so ago, he hit like a really dark place, and it's a long story, but he found himself sitting in a bathroom with his gun and some whiskey, and trying to figure some things out. And I'm like, you aren't going to figure out anything with in that kind of a situation. Nothing good gets figured out that way. But I remember I told him, I said, I'm very disappointed, man. He's like, I know, and I guess I don't think you do know, because like he goes through things, and he's reached out to me many times in the past. He's always reached out to me. And I'm like, but you didn't reach out to me then. I asked him, who did you reach out to? And he's like, nobody. I'm like, oh, dude, that's disappointing, man. Like, I thought that we were closer than that. And he kind of finally like connected with him. I said, that's probably why you were feeling the way that you were feeling, because you felt so alone, because you didn't go through your mental Rolodex and think, who would be here for me in a time like this? And he got that, and he understood it. Like I said, because that's what tells you who's really close to you in your life. People you call on when you're in tragedy. Not when you're in triumph, but when you're in tragedy. Others. Yeah, we're more likely to feel depressed by the person who's always smiling. And why? Because the person who's always smiling, for some reason we believe that they're really smiling. If we don't know what to look for, we really believe that they're really smiling. I wonder how many of you walk around and you smile at people, and inside you're dying inside, you're miserable, you're sad, you're going through some really difficult things, but you smile, and in your mind you're thinking, nobody knows what it is that I'm going through. And that's probably true, unless somebody knows what to look for, or they pay close enough attention, and then those things can jump out at you. But for some reason, even though we walk around with a smile while we're going through a darkness, we assume that everybody else who's smiling is giving us a real smile. We don't recognize that they very well might be going through a darkness as well. We just assume that they're all being genuine, but we're not. And that goes back to something I was saying last time about how we don't give ourselves nearly enough, understanding. We don't give ourselves as much understanding as we give other people, that's for sure. We're way nicer or more charitable towards our friends and family than we are towards ourselves. And so we see everybody else smiling and we think they must have it all together. And I'm the only one who doesn't have everything together. Thinking about, like right now, some of you have already gone through this, and some of you might still be going through this, where you're about to graduate and you probably have a lot of people around you asking you, so, what are you gonna do now? What do you do after you graduate? Like when people don't know what else to ask you, like maybe you're with your mom or something like that, and then you run to one of her friends and they say, oh, you're about to graduate, yeah? So now what are you gonna do? And you don't know what you're gonna do, or you have an idea maybe of a direction, perhaps, and you feel like there's something wrong with you because you don't have a direction. You don't know exactly what you're going to do. It seems like everybody else knows what they're doing. Especially when like the college acceptances came back and you have friends who are being accepted to places outside of San Diego, away. And you're like, wow, so-and-so is going to Berkeley, so-and-so is going to Santa Barbara, so-and-so is going to Colorado, so-and-so is going to Florida. That's gotta be cool. And then you're like, what are you gonna do? I don't know, something in San Diego. And you think like, man, I don't have anything figured out. Everybody else has stuff. There's something uniquely wrong with me. Everybody else is smiling. I'm sad. Everybody else has things figured out. I don't. There must be something uniquely wrong with me. And there's really not. There's everybody else who's smiling. Many of them are sad also, but just like you, they're smiling anyway. They're pretending to be something. And that's the danger of that. You start to think, if you're around people who are always smiling, who are pretending to be happy, you can actually be fooled by it and think that there's something uniquely wrong with you. You can miss that. And everybody else has a plan. Everybody else is going off. Everybody else is going to go do something. They're going to other places and all that. And I'm going to be stuck here in San Diego. Now what? That's a good question. Look around. Not now what? Look around. Now what? Now what? There's something out there. There's the whole world out there. But they're going to go off and they're going to, you have no idea what they're going to do. And you have no idea what it took for them to get there. But none of that matters. What matters is you. If somebody else has things figured out, that doesn't matter to you unless you care about them. Like if it's someone like you're happy for them to have things figured out. But instead, if it's a matter of, yeah, they got things figured out, great for them. What about you? Do you? Yes? No? That's the real question. And you probably don't have it figured out. I mean, does anybody know what they want to do with the rest of their lives? You might think you do. I'm 43. I have no idea what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm still figuring that out. But there is a downside to it, which is, I think I mentioned you a couple weeks ago I was in a bad mood. And I said, this is me in a bad mood. Have to be. Why? Because if you come in and you're in a bad mood and you're brooding and you're sad, you're miserable, then you're gonna make everything miserable for everybody else around you. Nobody else's fault. So what do? You come in and you smile. Oh, but then that means you're not being your authentic self. No, you are still being your authentic self. You're the person who can be going through something and you come in and you smile anyway. That's still an expression of your personality. No, but you're being fake. No, you're being optimistic. And you're taking others into account ahead of yourself. And you realize that that's a big part of leadership, to serve others before you serve yourself. Bad leaders serve themselves. Good leaders will serve others before they serve themselves. Because the point of a leader is to get a team somewhere. So what's the best way to get a team somewhere? To rally them together and get them there. Not to have them all serve you. It's not about you getting there, it's about the team getting there. And so if we admit our depression openly and freely, and especially with those few people who we know, others get a freedom rather than the depression itself. Why? Because you start to realize, wow, I'm not the only one. I'm not uniquely cursed. There isn't something uniquely wrong with me. That means that there is hope for me, because there's hope, because you see other people who go through these waves. And so that means you recognize you go through these waves. And that means that you're not uniquely cursed. There's hope for you still yet. So that doesn't mean that you want to go around and, the cashier at Target asks you how you're doing, crippling depression. I'm miserable. I don't know where I'm going in life. Doesn't mean you want to do that, because same thing, you make things worse for other people as well. But you should really need to have some people around you, some friends or some family or somebody who's close to you. And it's difficult because I know some people will say, yeah, but you never know when they're going to use that against you. That's true. They lie to you and say they would never. But it's true. You never know. But you do it anyway. Why? Well, because what's the alternative? What are you doing otherwise? You're going to keep it inside? You're going to be miserable? No, what are you doing otherwise? And then if you're miserable, do you really think you aren't going to make everybody around you miserable also? You guys have I don't know if you guys have any of those teachers who are just like miserable. You've had them in the past, and you just know that they are. It like drenches off of them, and it's so weird because they want you to be like them. You should do the things I've done. You should go the places I've done. Let me tell you how to live. while they're sitting there like, you know, on the bathroom floor with the bottle of whiskey and the Glock. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques. You guys, you coming in here just increase our numbers by 10%.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.